Greetings. This is Ernest Mann coming to you from America's Pacific Northwest, reaching out to those who enjoy insights and opinions you just won't hear anywhere else. Today, I'd like to talk to you about something most people claim to want: success. But before I go into that, I want you to know that everything I'm about to say here is specifically about you. This is not about a group, an organization, or a movement, but specifically about you, because there is a very big difference between the two, which I'll touch on shortly. Now, as far as success is concerned, it's one of those constructs which, by its very nature, has become very subjective, which I don't subscribe to, because I feel it's that point of view itself which in turn causes so many problems. Now, I'm not trying to come across as hard-assed or arrogant. I'm just being quite real, because nature is real. The realities of existence are real, and therefore the reason I'm a realist. So with that in mind, let me give you my personal definition of some, but certainly not all, of life's situations that demonstrate true success. You actually own your own home. No mortgage. It's a modest home, 2,500 square feet max, including the garage, and you own your own car, regardless of how old it may be, because your goal is to reliably and inexpensively get from point A to point B. You're not here to impress the Joneses. You'll feel much better about yourself waving goodbye to them when you see them moving out, because the bank has foreclosed on their mortgage. And speaking of neighbors, you're successful if you're able to get along well with your neighbors, who are not loud, obnoxious, drug or alcohol addicted, or otherwise neurotic, and generally stay out of your business. If you do get along and socialize with your immediate neighbors, that's great. Just make certain they're not what I call friendly grifters. These are people who generally fall into a group, an organization, or a movement I mentioned I would comment on earlier. Neighbors that are friendly grifters are the ones that pretend to like you, but if you're actually paying attention, are always getting more out of you than they give in return. For example, if I invite someone for dinner or a barbecue, let's say, I try to be a gracious host, which means top quality beer and porterhouse steaks on the grill. And bear in mind, I am by no means rich. But the reason I do it is because it's a very important statement of character for me. And expressing that character, as well as engaging with others of good character, I find extremely satisfying, at least as much as the meal itself. Unfortunately, grifters do not subscribe or live by those values. So if you've done this several times for certain neighbors, just bear in mind these are neighbors that are very financially well off. Just take my word for it, and you notice that every time it's their turn to reciprocate, they only provide cheap hot dogs, maybe a little chicken, and shit Tree Frog beer. If anyone out there knows what that means, it's very likely they're grifters. Stop entertaining them. I mean, hell, one of those neighbors' wife was actually pretty good looking. The husband at least could have offered me a zesty session with her to make up for the half-assed barbecue and shitty beer he gave to me. But no, he didn't even offer that. So as a consequence, no more German beer and porterhouse steaks for him. At this point, I would just like to briefly reiterate, if there's anything I'm saying here you don't understand or want clarification on, reach out to me and I'll respond ASAP. I'm a hell of a lot better than your $300 an hour therapist. And no definition of true success, now that I've covered the fact that you not only own your home, but obviously you reside there, is your relationship to any and all neighborhood religious people. Religious lunatics, such as, but not limited to, Jehovah's Witnesses, who, somehow, despite their delusional state, retain enough cognitive function to be able to read your no solicitation sign outside your door and comprehend that they are in fact selling something, God, which I have no interest in whatsoever, and actually leave you the fuck alone, which is definitely a success for me as well as for them, because I get left alone and they don't have to endure the futility of trying to save someone, which does have a reasonably functional brain and probably explains why I stopped believing in the Easter Bunny or Santa Claus when I was around 9 fucking years old, which by current American standards would have made me a realist prodigy. I'd like to wrap up my incredibly insightful and profound thoughts on success with this. An unmistakable marker of true success is to have the understanding and therefore the conviction that your time, your life moments are ultimately the most precious thing you possess, and it should not be given away to the lowest bidder simply because that's what everyone else does, and it's the path of least resistance. So unless you were lucky enough to be born into money and privilege, following the herd will usually get you nowhere. And I believe it's self-evident from the millions and millions of Americans currently struggling just to make ends meet that what I'm saying is true. Or to put it another way, stop being a $1,000 whore, but giving yourself away to America's corporate pimps for $50. Or they will continue fucking you, or working you, if you prefer soft, non-threatening language, to death. As the fucking business criminals say, that simply doesn't make economic sense for you. If you found this episode informative or at least entertaining, please consider subscribing. And if you just want to reach out to me with whatever's on your mind, you can do so by clicking on my contact link in the description below. Because isolation usually turns to misery, and who the hell wants that? Until next time, this is Ernest, and that's all I've got for today.